The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nicole Hennessy, Vice President of Music Biz. Welcome to our Common Ground webinar series. I'm excited to have Verifi Media here with us today. But before I introduce them and today's webinar, let me just give you some housekeeping updates, deadlines, and so on from a music biz perspective. We have a great lineup of webinars this spring. If you go to the events tab at musicbiz.org, you'll see that we're pretty stacked March through June. We have Chartmetric, Show for Me, the Labs, the Independent Alliance for Artists' Rights, Data Art, and two presentations that will be a preview of The Future Is Now. The Future Is Now is a tech experience room at Music Biz 2020. So a room with VR, high-res, interactive music, immersive audio, all different experiences that folks, attendees at Music Biz 2020 can go there, experience things one-on-one, talk to the folks behind these technologies. So we'll be previewing on two webinars this spring some of the companies that will be a part of that experience at Music Biz 2020. So all the information on those webinars, again, is at the events tab at musicbiz.org. Check them out, register for the webinars. Because they really are a wealth of wonderful information. Music Biz 2020, we're in full swing planning mode, announcements going out every week. Earlier this week, we announced that Jeremy Sirota, he's the CEO of Merlin, will deliver his first public interview since taking the helm of Merlin in early 2020. So Jeremy will be talking about the future of the organization and how he sees the independent community, fitting in with tech advances such as TikTok and all these other great things that are happening in the industry. So really looking forward to Jeremy's chat with us at the annual event. There are over 100 other breakout programs, keynotes, networking events, you name it. It is a great conference to be at. And I'm not only saying that because I work here and maybe a little biased, but it really is the place where the entire business, whether you're commerce, content, or creative, come together for 4 days and make business happen. So if you've never checked it out, visit musicbiz2020.com to see what it's all about, see what past attendees have said, and see why you should be there. If you do have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me via email or phone. Happy to talk to you about the event. So those are the two big ones. The one thing with Music Biz to remember are early bird rates. You can save up to $100. Those rates are in effect until March 13th, which is next Friday. So if you haven't got your registrations, do so soon. And the room block at the JW is filling up quickly. We're over 90% booked at this time. So if you haven't got your hotel room, but you did get your registration, you better get your hotel room soon as well. So all great stuff happening from our vantage point with all the events, both face-to-face and virtual that are happening, and also adding stuff to our website every day, interviews with executives, and a bunch of other content pieces that could really inform how you do business. So be sure to be visiting the website and seeing those there. So with all that said, I am going to turn it over to my friends at Verifi. We have with us today Christian Babikian and Richard Skidmore, and also a guest from Fuga. Here to join them today from Fuga is Dina Kim. Thank you, Verifi Media, for this webinar. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm sure those in the audience are as well. Those of you who are in the audience listening in today, there's a questions box on your screen. Please feel free to put questions in that box as you have the questions, and the team will answer them at the end of the session. So please, use that questions box and communicate with our presenters. Christian, Richard, Dina, thank you for being here, and I'm putting myself on mute.
Hey, Hey, thanks for the introduction there. Hello, my name is Richard Skidmore. I'm the head of business development here at Verifi, and as you've just heard, Christian's on the call with me as well, and we've got Dina from Fuga who will be chiming in later. So today we're just going to run through a little bit about who we are and what we're, some of the issues that I think we all face within the music industry, and how we feel that we have a solution that goes some way to fixing some of those issues. So, the general agenda today will be to look at the modern music landscape and issues in the digital space. We'll then look at our technology. We'll then go on to look at our partnerships and clients that we have. We've been in this space for a number of years now, and I suppose only recently we've been more public with some of the clients that we're working with. And then finally, we'll go on to talk about two of our core projects in Q1 and Q2 for this year in 2020. And one of those projects is with Fuga, hence why Dina is on the call. And I will be throwing some questions to Dina at that point. And once we've run through the deck, as you heard, we will then have a question session. So if you have any questions that you wish for me to answer, I'll try and get through as many as I can on the call. And if you want to follow up after, I'm happy to talk to anyone in separate meetings. But let's kick off. So just a very quick, brief introduction. We're Verifi Media. So we always sort of call ourselves a rights management focused company working with blockchain rather than a blockchain company, the other way around. We see blockchain as being a very powerful tool to be used alongside other traditional technologies to try and fix some of the metadata and rights issues that are in the business. I'm going to hand over to Christian shortly to run through our first slides. But for anyone that is unused to blockchain, I usually use the term that blockchain is a ledger technology that basically will give you the best paper trail, the best audit of any change in your data. So it's fantastic for being able to tell you who said what at what time and what date, and what was the agreed outcome that you all came to. So if you put that technology within the music right, we feel that a hybrid model where you work in traditional architecture, but also use blockchain at the crucial point where you have consensus on agreement of a change in rights is the way to go forward. And later on, after Christian has handed over to me, I will go through a little bit more in detail our technology. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Christian to start off the presentation.
Great, thanks, Richard. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. So I'm going to give some info and background on Verifi and where we fit in the music industry. So what do? At Verifi, we aim to answer the question, who owns the rights to this song? Now, that's a seemingly simple question, but in a world where there are more songs and entering the marketplace and more creators and collaborators than ever before, it's becoming increasingly difficult. And the current data tracking methods, they're not necessarily equipped to handle this influx of music. So our solutions are going to work to sync all this data across various stakeholders in the industry, from the independents all the way to the majors. So Verifi, we connect the entire value chain with a consistent data framework. Right, so here's an overview of the different parties in the music industry. Now, many of these parties, they have their own internal systems that do not communicate with the others. So our goal is to create a horizontal connection that runs in between all of these groups, connecting them. We see it as almost like a pipe system that can connect all the parties. Now, each party can benefit independently from our services. So for example, if you look at the left, like you got the creators and the artists, they can attach their data to their songs and to their assets right when they leave the studio, so it lives with it throughout the whole value chain. Labels and publishers, which is the space that I'm actually originally from, can link wholly owned tracks. PROs, performing rights organizations, they can connect info with publisher registration, where there's sometimes, as we know, can be a disconnect. For distributors, well, that's an area that's become increasingly more competitive. and the ability to register and track songs, it can add value to their offerings. And for DSPs, digital streaming platforms, that's the hub where much of the industry data flows through to the market. And so there are issues if they don't receive if they receive incorrect information. At the end of it all, you got the fan, and fixing all of these data issues will help them have their favorite artists be able to create more music for them to enjoy. So we ensure tracking, monetization, and communication of music asset ownership data across all parties in a transparent way. So what's the problem? The data is just not tracked efficiently, right? Music rights data is inherently multi-party. I mean, let's be real. This is a collaborative and creative business. That's what makes it so wonderful. So this is a problem because more songs are being released daily than ever before. I mean, you may have seen that around 40,000 tracks are added to Spotify every day. I mean, can you believe that? Like, that's insane. Like, it's fantastic seeing all that music enter this market space. But what comes with that? With more songs means more data and more rights owners per song, especially as more creators are collaborating. So example I have here is Beyonce's Lemonade album. The record has over 70 songwriters and 100 collaborators. I mean, what comes with that are many parties required to keep this data accurate. Like if you see here, you got artists and writers and labels, publishers, PROs. I mean, there's so many cooks in the kitchen and they're all reading different recipes. So it's a problem because all need the latest and accurate data. As I mentioned before, communication is difficult between these parties because many use different siloed systems. And as I said too, they don't communicate with one another. So ownership information, it must move at the speed of digital, but oftentimes it's like assigned and or corrected after the release actually happens. So why do we need to move rights at the speed of digital? Well, as I mentioned, more songs are entering the marketplace. So there are more opportunities for these songs, and there are consequences for if there's a lack of correct and up-to-date ownership information. So here's a couple. So for example, let's take a look at SoundCloud. SoundCloud has hundreds of millions of songs on their platform, but only about a third to a half of the tracks are able to be monetized. Now, Spotify, they've actually been hit with lawsuits in the past due to songs being used without licenses or unpaid royalties. Now, these aren't really faults of either one of these platforms. It's more of these are problems that they're facing due to lack of ownership data. Now, YouTube, as a UGC, user-generated content platform, they face similar issues as SoundCloud. They have over 1 million takedowns per month for content on their site. And because a lot of that stuff has songs that are being used without a license. And one thing we've come to realize actually is that, but yes, there are people who are just throwing songs up there and videos up there and hoping they can kind of skate under the radar and no one notices, or people who are just unaware of how to get a song license and that you need to. But a lot of times there are parties who want to do the right thing, want to get the appropriate license because they want their content to live on the platform, and they can't because they can't find the rights owners, and this is due to inaccurate ownership information. And also from information we've gathered, a PRO has actually had to go through 4 trillion song uses from over 200 streaming sites to find payments due. Now, while some of that process was able to be automated, a lot of it was manual. So the issue is like a lot of these problems are growing, but the solutions aren't. So here's an overview of our data management approach. So the diagram on the right over here explains what our idea of a multi-party data sharing platform is going to look like. And yeah, Richard's going to go into the detail that a little more later and the projects we've done and how they relate to this. But I'll give some background on it now. So our solutions are going to offer the ability to share and connect data across these parties. Every party that has relevant information regarding to the song or the asset is able to communicate that to the others. And we're able to track and broadcast data changes. This is what's really cool because it's exciting because as catalogs are bought and sold, publisher and writer-publisher information might change. We're able to see where the data was, where it came from, and where it is now, and track that along the whole way. And one thing we've realized, and this is cool because we see a lot of the issues in the system and in the industry come from data discrepancies versus disputes. So it's where these parties have conflicting or inconsistent data regarding a song and aren't even aware. And usually once they realize that, they fix it and are happy to fix it. We offer data scoring. How good's your data? Where's it coming from? So we have a proprietary data scoring and reputation engine to combat false data contributions and claims, and this will eliminate bad actors. So me or you, anyone here can't just go in and claim their Beyonce and claim all her rights on all these songs and get all her royalties. So I mean, unless of course Beyonce's on this call, then we'd love to chat with you afterwards. But that's what we're focusing on here. And we also leverage algorithms. But at the end of the day, clean data is better data, right? So we want to make sure the data that we have that gets registered is clean. So we have a partnership with a great company called Ray through Exactuals, and they cleanse and normalize our data before it gets registered to the chain. Now, this all leads to smarter media files. And one thing we stress is we're trying to embrace, not replace current data standards, right? We're not trying to introduce some new file format everyone's got to adopt over here. No, we import DDEX and CWR files. And this is where the ISRC and ISWC connections can happen. Like I said, we're just trying to instead just improve the current data standards. We want to make the data interoperable, and this can scale globally because the data should be transparent. And ultimately, dynamic data that is trusted and can be shared across relevant parties is going to lead to better business decisions and just overall scenarios for all the players in the music industry. All right, now I'm going to throw it over to Richard to continue. Thanks.
Thank you, Christian.
Yeah.
So we're just going to go into a sort of a deeper dive now into the technology. We are trying to fix issues within the business that are very, very complex. We're under no underestimation of that. And these are issues that have been in the business before the business went digital, some of these. So we try to do this in a number of slides with the time constraints that we can. So I will go through this as we can. I'm happy, as I said at the top, to elaborate on any of this as and when is needed, if you'd like to contact with me after the call. So we have a concept at the data level of bundling. So what is bundling? As you can see on the screen here, you have your audio, your metadata, your ownership information, and your licensing information. And through our technology, we can actually connect those that data together, because currently that data is either partially connected or completely unconnected. And once that siloed data goes into a siloed music industry, you then have a situation, as we do currently, where many different silo databases will have set the same or slightly different or completely incompatible data for the same entry. And you have very many cases of bad history states and issues with the data, missing data, which then can obviously lead to problems with the release, with delays, with takedowns, and then ultimately to lawsuits. So what we try to do is we try to connect everybody together who is a rights owner of the data. And we use the term rights owner in a I suppose a slightly looser term, in that a rights owner it can be the artist, it can be the label, the publisher, the PRO, the DSP, as we go around, that has needs access to the data and to be able to have a stream of good quality data that they know is verified, and they can trust that they don't have to keep double checking it to make sure that the data is incorrect, or use it and then get sued. So we take that data and we actually connect it all together at this the data level, and then we will look at cleansing that data. So one of the issues we have within the business is, especially with historical data, but I've seen many cases of this with new data, is that certain standards, certain identifiers are missing. There's incorrect metadata because of human error or the siloed system that I just explained. So we partner with Ray, which is an algorithm built by Exactuals, who some of you may know on the call. And we use them to sort of cleanse, normalize the data, because if you are going to put something onto the chain where you cannot delete it, you can only amend or add a new entry to that asset, then you want to start from a good place where you feel your data is cleansed and to the best quality that you can get at that time. And so Exactuals and the Ray team are a very important strategic partner of ours that we use to do this process. I'm just going to move on to how that sort of looks at a process level as we go through. So a number of these sort of stages we're actually working on now with certain clients. So as I go through, I will sort of refer back to this as we go through. So if you think about the industry at the moment, a lot of this process happens, but it's not actually connected. It might be partially connected, or there might be multiple connections to the wrong environment or to the wrong PRO, and this is where we have some of the issues that have happened over the years. So we take your data, we do some data orchestration on it. So we actually look at your data, we can actually score your data, and we can allow you to connect your publishing world to your label world. So we can connect ISRC if needed to ISWC, which at that very first point means that you then have one connected database of information rather than 2, 3, 4, 6 different separate databases of differing and slightly similar information for the same file. And we feel that that is very powerful and needed in the industry, and we can't currently do that with current standards. We then can use the power of Ray to cleanse the data at scale, and we can scale to a very large degree to push a large amount of data through Ray. And if anyone is on the call that would like more information on that, I can certainly connect you with our friends at Exactuals. And then we built into the system what we call multi-party data sharing. So where you have currently a system where many entities within the business might have data, but they are communicating with each other via email, via phone calls, scribbled notes, updates in Evernote, many different ways. They're not completely connected all the way through, and we see that is a crucial point where the industry can improve. And this idea, this concept of multi-party data sharing, where you can have overlapping data sets, where we can then have visibility of who has the correct data. If one entity is saying X, but the other entity is saying Y, how do we agree which one is the right entity? And we feel that this has always been done after the effect in some cases, and we can improve this by actually connecting these entities together, so everyone has the right history state and the right clean data feed, so that we can all get on and actually release that artist and look after our clients. And so it's a very, very important part of what we do. So after we've got to that point where we've connected the artists together, this data sharing workflow, we then will add entries onto the chain. So as I was saying at the top, we use a hybrid model of the blockchain. There are many companies out there, and there have been for the last few years, that will tell you that you put the entire music industry onto blockchain technology. That in our world does not scale at all. We use blockchain where it is vital and is better than any other database, which is at the point that you have agreement. So, back to the multi-party data sharing, where you have an agreement on this is the owner, this is the change of title, this is the writer split. Okay, are we all agreed, all the various parties? Yes or no? That is the point that you need to actually commit that to the chain, because that is where the blockchain. Our last service, we have dynamic asset management and supply chain. So, once you've gone through this process, you have a large amount of data. There are varying degrees of technological ability within the music industry and process. And so we can help on that side to try and fix some of those issues that may lie within. So just a small slide here on our work with Exactuals. So we use Exactuals and Ray as a data source for us. They're very powerful to what we're doing. As you can see here, they have some 3 million recordings, 12 million works, and crucially 29 million matched recordings to works. And so where your data may be patchy in some cases, it's crucial that you can actually push this data through Ray to actually bring value and fill in those gaps in your data. And we have worked with many clients with Ray, and we found it very, very useful to what we do. Also, they have 52 million links between recordings and songs to the song ID. So it's a very powerful system to be able to call on to look at the data and try and fix some of the issues that are in the business currently. So so I'm just going to go on a little bit. So just to talk about our clients before we get further into our technology. So our technology partners, we actually work with a number of different entities. Our main core team on the tech front is part of CardStack's set up in New York. Some of you may know Chris C, our CTO. They're based in New York there. They are our backbone. They build our stack, and they're a very experienced team. We obviously work with Exactuals on the Ray algorithm. We partner with Digimarc as our preferred watermark partner. We will talk a little bit about that shortly, but one of the ways that we can connect how the blockchain into your content is via watermarking. And finally, DataArt is our partner to build out one of our projects, which we're working on with Fuga, which Dina will talk about shortly. So just to go on to some of our clients. So if you think about the space I was just describing, where you have this environment where you have PROs and DSPs, distributors, we felt from the start that we needed to work with problems, issues that are very sector specific, I would say, but also they have many issues that cross all the sectors. And it can be labeled as, I need good quality data. That's the simplest way that you can put it. And so we've been working with these for a number of years now, and we are just in the process of doing a sort of multi-major project with some of these entities, which I will discuss shortly. And we also have our partnership with Fuga as well, which is a fantastic strategic partnership, and Fuga have been very supportive of us throughout this process. Just as we start talking about the product side of this, I think it's useful to get some real use cases to you, because I think what have I just explained is a very large scale problem which we try and fix all this data in the business. So I feel that it's perfect to actually give you an insight from someone that has actually been through this with us and actually chose to work with us. So we have been working on 2 large projects this year. The first, and arguably one of the most important, is the project with Fuga. And so we have been working on a registration product with Fuga, so that we can actually register their clients' data onto the chain. And so if I it's a very nice thing here that Peter said that you've probably been reading while I've been speaking. But if I just go down here, what we offer is the ability for Fuga clients, and this will be a first, that a distributor will be backed by blockchain technology. And this will be through the Fuga's partnership page. You can make a connection to us, and once the connection is established, all future release assets and products are assigned an identifier and stamped onto the blockchain. The identifier is then embedded in the DDEX files and goes out to the DSP. At a release date, our public page will display public data from the release. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring added value into the DSP space, because I think it's a very, very competitive space, and I think Fuga having the ability to be able to track these changes that go through and then out to DSPs is certainly very, very important. And so I'd like to ask Dina to come on just to sort of say some words about how do you know, if we start with what was the first thing that sort of attracted you to work with us as a company in the blockchain space?
Sure. Hi, Richard. This is Dina. Yeah, so one of the things that we're interested in along with everyone else in the musical ecosystem is basically transparency of data. And that's where we feel that Verifi Media can offer that. And it's one of the things, one of the biggest interests also of our clients, mostly labels, who would like to participate in having a centralized place where they can see and contribute music metadata of the products that they own, so that everybody has that transparency and ultimately is useful for payments, which I think is a really big driver to make sure that you're providing the correct data.
Great. Okay. And going forward, do you think that is this because, you know, the distribution space is so competitive? Is that one of the reasons why you wanted to sort of try and bring added value to your clients?
Well, that as well, but in the end, I think, yeah, it's about giving value to our clients in general, not just distributing their music, but allowing them to get any updated data that they might have had missing when they first distributed it through us. So anywhere where we can add value for our users is.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of bring up this slide, which goes into a little bit more detail of some of the things that I was saying. So you know, within this, if the Fuga user makes an amendment, this passes up the connection to the public UI. Where we want to take this is that, you know, we can then pass this on to the DSP, so that we can then show the changes, so that, you know, this data can then be incorporated into the DSP world. Because I think this is one of the issues that we've heard from many of our sort of DSP clients and prospective clients, is that they receive feeds from many different areas of the business, but they have issues with its quality. And so if they can be provided with a feed of good quality data, then that would be a much better situation for them to have. So I always sort of define this as, I suppose, our master registration product, which is our sort of first core level of our technology, where we're registering, as Dina was saying, the data onto the chain and then passing this back to the client. We're also working on a product with our friends in Spain, Unison, which is on the publishing side, to do a very similar process on the works front. And so then, you know, that these two projects are scheduled to be sort of finished by the summer, and these will be both have the ability to connect together. So we then have a very powerful tool to be able to register both on the master side and on the work side. And then as we develop the Fuga product, there will be other features that will be coming on throughout that process. So if you take, you know, what I've just shown you as I suppose our core registration product, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about what we've been building with some of our other clients. So we've actually, on our second project with a major record company, so we actually had a behind the closed doors, I suppose, project that we worked on last year, and that was to test out the core functionality of blockchain. And so this is I suppose, a very simplified slide to show you how we actually did that. But what we did was we took 5,000 books, and we then passed the public and private data. So we actually converted that data out. And just a note on that we can, as Christian was saying, at the top, we output back into DDEX and CWR at any point. So we do not see this as a replacement for those standards. We have always welcomed both those standards. We just feel that we can probably add some value here to actually improve some aspects of the ecosystem. So as you can see here, so the data then goes to Ray as a data contributor to suggest ISRC and ISWC matches. And we built a walled garden which would then allow users of the company to approve and deny functionality and to connect ISRC to ISWC. So a number of the core functionalities that you would see in any label, the ability to be able to do that yourself is crucial to our vision. We have never seen ourselves as being the central resource for all this information. We see this as we are, I suppose, the clerk of the court. We are not the judge on your data. We would be able to help you connect your data to the relevant parties and actually tell you who said what at what time. But it is your data, and it has always remained that way. And so we're very clear on that with all our clients. So at the end of this process, we did as I say, a walled garden. We created this walled garden for the client, which was very well received. And then this took us on to, so this is just a slide of the session that we set up, the walled garden. And this then took us on to our project that we're currently working on. So if you go to the next stage of you've tested our core functionality, the next stage, if we're building our project on registration with Fuga and on the work side with Unison, then the biggest issue is that conflict resolution and data issues where you have large entities who have shared data. And it's a problem which I think many people on the call will understand, of relatable data that is actually colliding with each other, I suppose, in one sense, and how you come to an agreement on consensus of which is correct. And so this is a project that we are undertaking at the moment with some of these. And they've agreed to work with us as in a partnership to try and come to a I would call it a sort of improved way of working, I suppose, while still using all the standards that we that are currently in the industry. So we have upped the amount of tracks and works that we are using, and then we will put them into an environment where we will then test these issues of takedowns and a number of other key conflict resolutions where you have overlapping data sets. So as I say, this is something that I can talk to you in more detail. If anyone would like some more information, please connect me. But as I say, I can't go into too much detail on this open call. But yeah, if you would like to know more, I'm more than happy to organize a second meeting with you. So I wanted to just sort of finish before I open up for questions to talk about our technology, because I think it's very, very important. I think many blockchain companies, blockchain-backed companies, are quite shy in some ways about their technology, and there's some smoke and mirrors, I suppose, and we want to be open because I think blockchain technology is brand new. We understand that. We understand there's hesitancy, but I think, as I've said, by all the points I've made on the positivity and the improvements that blockchain technology can bring to the space, I think it's important to sort of to take that on board. But also, it's useful for me to explain that a little bit more in more detail about the hybrid state of our technology. So we've got two slides here just to finish, which is our sort of our stack that we build with our team, and we have our public and private data at the top. We've got our algorithmic cleansing catalog, multi-party consensus, and then distributed ledger, an immutable ledger, at the bottom. So as you can see, we've worked in a number of different cryptocurrencies and technologies. We've built both in Hyperledger, and we are currently building in Ethereum. So we have always tried to find the best approach, I would say, through to the solution, and hence why we have walked in different parties. So as you can see here, you've got the end user and the third party and governance at the bottom between the distributed ledger and the multi-party consensus. How that works, and again, these slides are on our website. So if you would like to look at this, I think this is one of the most important slides, because you know I get asked many questions about how you can run through I could probably do an hour on that topic. I'm happy. I haven't looked at any of the questions yet, and I'm probably going to get some questions on that. But we have a solution for that, of how you govern in a system where you have multiple owners and no central admin, and we feel that that's an improved way of working that actually gives value back to every owner. But at a very basic level, we have our layer here, which is our distributed ledger. That's where you actually record your information. If we go from top down, we have a lot of our changes are actually tracked in Git. So this is where I was talking about this hybrid technology. You know, it's Git is a technology that is widely used within the industry, and so we have always tried to use, go through the straightest path to actually try and find which is the best technology. And this hybrid methodology has meant that we have been able to prove this technology quicker and actually convince more clients that actually this is a possible way for them to go. And so as you can see, we move down into the pack file where you have the distributed storage, and then finally into the blockchain at the bottom where we actually record the changes onto the chain. And so if you think about this in a very simple way, you're actually recording the data in various sources within this. And in our sort of grand scheme for how this would work within a working environment, we often see that our largest users would run their own node. So again, going back to my earlier point, we have never sort of set ourselves up as being the aggregator of all data. We see ourselves as you running your own node and your own content, and we just being able to be the clerk of the court in the background, just recording efficiently the data that you might have value in, and then when you need to actually source that data, we can actually then return that to you, or you can look that up yourself. So I think that's a very quick run through of what we do. I'm sort of conscious of time, that we've got enough time to answer some questions. So we've got about 15 minutes left. So I'll just open up the chat and see. Okay, so I'm just going to run down some questions. They all come into me as a list, so I will try and answer these questions. So I've got a question from Elizabeth here. So, which DSPs are leveraging the Verifi query? So, as I was saying, you might have said that at the start. We're working with Deezer at the moment, amongst some of the other clients that we can talk about. We always respect our clients' wishes, and so these were the clients that we were able to talk about, but I'm more than happy to sort of talk to you offline about the possibilities if that was of interest to you. A question here: do you have any clients in Africa? Not currently. I'm happy to chat to you. Please reach out to me if you would like me to talk. The question here about Fuga. If you would like me to put you in contact with Fuga, I'm more than happy to connect you. Again, please come through to me. Okay. Sorry, there's quite a long question here. I'll just read it. Issues on language. Yeah, this is an issue that we've had. Well, I'd say the issues with language and territory are varied and of different levels of difficulty. We've already worked on some issues where, I think the pure language side of this can be an issue, but we are working on solutions there to be fluent in other languages other than English. I think the larger issue is the issue that impacts on territories and rights within territories. It's something that we've heard from a number of clients where clients have got as far as to produce product and then realize that they don't have rights in that country. And I think, again, that's another problem where the industry, where that territory information is not being passed to the right parties, and so therefore you're getting as far as to produce your product and release that track before realizing that you might not have rights in that product. So yeah, there's a question here. Can indie labels, indie artists start using your service? This so many problems and keep all right management transactions transparent. It's a must. There we go. Thank you for that support. So yeah, there is a artist product that is on our roadmap, which I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but we see the artist as very, very important. And if you remember one of the earlier slides that Christian was showing, the artist is actually at the starting point of this, and I think to connect them into this world and give them the ability to connect, especially in our modern world, which is moving much more to, I suppose, a fragmented space, I'll call it, where artists will move around, and the rise of the artist services model. I think the industry has to be set up to be able to allow that data to move around with that artist. So as an artist moves from one entity to another, from a PRO to the new PRO or a new publisher, then that data should be able to go with them. And I think both sides benefit. I think the artist benefits because they have they can take their data with them. In my experience, after 18 years of working in the music business, it's one of the biggest issues of the true recordings, the masters, your work goes with you, but your metadata doesn't. And I think it's certainly an issue. But also, the second point, when an artist is then joining a new organization, that artist can then go with their data. And I think if you actually put this in place from the start, it is so valuable and so powerful, because as we all know, that when you are in that creative space, when you're making your music, the last thing you want to do is actually then read through a 40-page contract, and actually that is where some of the issues happen. So it's our view that we can try and help at that stage as well, so that we actually can build one ecosystem that an artist can move through this, and as they go, they control their data like every content owner.
Yeah,
so
Richard, can I add another point to that? What's interesting is that, for example, we have a use case where, say, a lot of our labels going through Fuga, they have submitted all of their information, but oftentimes they just won't have access to, for example, some of the writers or the associated publishers. And what I found really great is that once we get their data and say that exists, that product or that album is on the blockchain via your other partners, we can see what links that product is linked to in terms of original composition, who has contributed, who are the publishers, and then we could also, in principle, get that data back to our system and add that in appropriately, and then send that further on to DSP. So then, Spotify or Apple can actually display that full set of information.
Yeah, it's super important, and it's one of the issues that we've come across. I could count on countless times where I've had conversations with certain clients, and they say, "Oh, you know, Jane, Peter, Tom, that person over there, they have all this, they've encyclopedic information in their head, and if they weren't here, then I would be lost." And it's in that situation where you have these certain people, these certain entities that have this data, which share this data, but it's still fragmented. You don't have that sort of one true vision. So I think, yeah, being able to supply that data to Apple is crucial, that we can actually, you can go to them with all the right standards that will mean that that artist can be released at the right time. So another question on independence. I will be, as an independent artist with no label, would I still be able to be potentially use Verifi? Yeah, absolutely. We see that there is that world that happens where artists go up, you know, from being unsigned to being signed, but also come back the other way. And I think it's not just a problem for the artists themselves, obviously, to try and find a new home, but it's also for the larger entities. So as you know, the artist has to, you know, maybe leave a label, and they then have to find a new home. They usually sometimes have their metadata, but other times they don't. So this is certainly something that could help you, and this independent product, which we'll be launching later in the year, will certainly help that. I think at the wider scale, I think certainly when the large entities purchase catalog, and that's happening, as we know, more and more, there is a huge problem of embedding that and ingesting that into their current systems. And I think the larger the entity, the more problems that actually exist in that space. And so, you know, with our technology embedded, that is actually an easier problem to fix. And even if you have that data there that maybe is not connected from the start to our technology, we have Ray that we can actually help to use to leverage some of that with that data. So okay, when reconciling discrepancies in data, how do you get to consensus when there's discrepancy in something like the spelling of the song title? Good question. So just to recap, when reconciling discrepancies in data, how do you get to consensus when there is a discrepancy in something like the spelling of the song title? So yeah, I did promise that someone would probably ask that. So in a system, very simply, in a system where there is no central admin, how do you govern? That is always the question that gets thrown at us. And I would say that, you know, currently there is no central government really that controls this environment. There are entities, and we all know them very well, that actually will govern some parts of this, but it is really up to the individual to fix these issues. How we see this world developing is that we obviously score your data at the point of entry, and that helps us give you a score and can bring value to actually ingesting your data into the system. But in a wider sense, we have I suppose a data and a reputation score engine, where in a very simple way, if you add data into the system and you are, I suppose, let's call you a good person, and everybody in the consensus agrees, then your data score will go up. So it works in a very similar way at a very simple level to your Uber score. So if you are a good person in a cab, your score will stay the same, will go up, and obviously if you're a bad person, your score will go down. So that would work in maybe this example. Three entities are in an agreement for the ownership of an asset, and they all agree that it is X, and then a new entity comes in and says absolutely not, it is Y. If those first three entities have a high enough score because they have been in our environment for a certain amount of time, and they are known as being a good character, then their viewpoint will be taken over the other person. And we have to be able to work, I suppose, with the quirks and the issues within the business. So, you know, we have to have the ability that a track may be in some sort of disagreement, and we have to say, okay, well, ownership could be 90% of agreed ownership. How confident are we that that is correct? You know, currently what happens is this happens in many different formats and is not tracked in one central place. Where we bring the value is we actually connect that together. To answer your second question, yes, the song title, we actually are, if you look at the DDEX or the CWR schema, a large majority of the fields are very important, and so we actually rank them by score. So, you know, an entity would not be able to go in and just change the ownership of something. They would have to have confirmation from all the parties before they can do it. So hopefully that answers your question. Anything over, okay. What approach should labels take when revisiting back catalog, anything over 5 to 10 years old, and optimizing metadata? Good question. So we've had this, you know, some of our clients have brand new material. A lot of old back catalog, deep back catalog, which has not been exploited, which is another reason why we are working with a number of parties, because I think there's issues there. Certainly by using Ray to be able to go through and actually help you with your metadata issues, I think that can bring that up, you know, to a certain level. So I'm just going to go through because we've only got a few minutes left. I'm just going to go. What metadata do you see lacking most often? What is the missing metadata? What do you think may cause the greatest impact on payouts to artists? Okay, metadata across the board, we see every different side of it. We see as simple as the artist's name being misspelt. We see IPI numbers missing. You know, anything like this can stop a track in its process path. And so, you know, and also the other thing that we have sort of realized is that, you know, when you have that sort of blockage somewhere in the process, it does take an enormous amount of time for someone to go in and go, okay, that's where it is. And so we've worked on solutions which can really highlight where the area of the blockage is in the process and be able to rectify that quickly and to move on, because ultimately that's what everybody wants to do. Currently with the siloed environment, you're ringing around, you're trying to find who has caused the issue, and of course if it's in conflict, then it can then involve a takedown or worse. So it is a problem. Would you be able to share which publishers, PROs that you're already partnering with? I did earlier on there. Those are the public ones that we can talk about. Is there a way for data owners like a label to export data from their works, from your ecosystem into a CSV file or similar? Yeah, the short answer is yes. Talk to me if you would like more information. How does the blockchain deal with frequent changes of publishing catalog ownership and control? That's a good question. Yeah, that's really important. If you think of a track being created tonight in a kid's bedroom, and then in a year's time it's a global smash, the journey that track has gone on in the metadata world is marked. And you know, that is only the start of it. You know, that artist could then be signed, and then over the next 5 years could have 10 different entities. Within our system, that would all be tracked. So the first label publisher they signed to would be tracked, and then at the point that changes, the next publisher would be hooked in and recorded there. So over time, like I was saying right at the top, you've got the best history state that you've ever had. So you can then see, okay, on the 4th of March, we lost rights, or the 5th of March, we are in the business.
All right, I'm going to cut you off there since we're out of time.
Oh,
you know, thank you, Richard and Dina and Christian. Thank you so very much for the great webinar today. Lots of great questions, and you guys, contact us for our presenters. They gave you that today. So if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to them after the webinar. Thank you for being here today, and we'll see you back on the Common Ground webinar series shortly. Thank you all.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Bye.